right. Welcome to Nostalgicast, your weekly roundup of the best and most up-to-date nostalgic news, where we discuss the stories from a safe distance and give our thoughts. I am your host, who the Ronies love the most, Andrew Price. Tenderonies, not the other kind of Ronies. Keep those Ronies away from me. He's tiny, Tyler Palo. He's toony, Kelby Joseph. He's altogether loony, Dad Beats, a.k.a. Kirk Pinchon.
Dad Beats!
How's it going, guys?
Good.
Pretty
Good. Sippy.
Pretty good.
Alright.
Did you just say it's going sippy?
Sippy.
I'm starting a new thing. Yeah, it's going sippy, man.
No, we have to unpack this. So, you said sippy, and
Yep.
you picked up a glass of water and took a drink. So,
Yes.
was your sippy in response to me saying how it's going, or how's it going, and you were saying sippy as in like an adjective, like it's going SIP-Y? Or did you narrate your own action and go sippy and then take a drink of the drink?
Which one do you think it is? Because there's an answer.
I think both of you have gone crazy staying at home all this time because Kirk's narrating his life and Andrew's overanalyzing everything.
It was the third one. It was me grabbing my water and going, sippy?
The third one, what was the...
There was only two.
Wait, was there only two? Okay.
Oh, God. It's already...
What's Bane have to say about my sippy?
No.
We don't know. We don't know
Dead-
because
Dead
Bane
meme.
can't,
I'm
Bane
giving
can't
you
come out.
I'm giving you ample opportunity to Bane it in these Skype podcasts, and you've let
Bane-
me down.
Bane can't come out to play until my water bottle is at least 3/4 of the way empty.
All right. You should just say Bane got the Ronies.
No, I would never put that demon on his name. So what's going on? What have we been doing? What is this? Week 4? I don't even know anymore. Could be
I
week.
don't know.
We're at day 27.
I bought a PS4 on birthday credit.
What? Hold on. I'm gonna unpack this even more than I unpacked Sippy. What is birthday credit?
So birthday credit.
It sounds like a credit card company tricked you into getting into debt.
Yeah, you go into a building, you strip down to your birthday suit, you get a line of credit. Birthday credit.
Totally normal.
Happy birthday, Tyler! And on this special day, you've been selected to open up a credit card with us.
Yeah.
And you're like, "Ooh, birthday!" What is birthday credit? What does that mean?
So
I get it. I know what it is.
Yeah, Kelby gets it. I bought a PS4 with money that I set aside. We set aside for like food and stuff.
So you said, fuck it. Let's buy a PS4 because
We're at
fine.
a point where we've gone past like boredom eating and we're just boredom sitting. We're not even eating because we're so bored anymore. We're actually losing weight and not doing anything. So we bought a PS4 and we're just gonna ask our parents to pay for it instead of a birthday present. Yeah, and they'll do that, which is nice. So
I'm losing. Go ahead.
right now we're playing Spider-Man, but we're downloading Apex Predators so we can play with some friends.
Apex Predators, Apex Legends.
Apex Legends. I'm downloading a shark, a lion.
You're just gonna 3D print a shark with your PS4. You're like, I'm really bored.
Yeah.
I'm like, invent a way to 3D print real living animals bored.
But keep them 6 feet away from me because I don't want them getting the Ronies.
You don't want to give them the Ronies? Wait, you have the Ronies?
I'm assuming I'm asymptomatically carrying it. Yeah, that's how I'm assuming everybody is, so we don't get infected.
That kind of works.
I don't think
Yeah.
I haven't been sick in like 4 months, so I don't think I've had it yet. But I'm assuming I have, just in case.
Now they're saying that if you had a cough or a sniffle in December, you probably were one of the early cases of the coronavirus.
What?
I read that literally 10 minutes ago.
Hey.
I mean, a sniffle and a cough can mean many different things. It doesn't necessarily mean that back in a couple months ago, you had coronavirus.
Yeah, for sure. But pretty much what it was saying is that because, there wasn't testing that the way there is testing now, and there will be testing maybe in the next 2 weeks or so, there's more people who have been affected than we're assuming. That's pretty much what it was trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. There are, especially because the reason why there, is such a surge in cases in the last couple weeks is, in addition to the fact that the virus is just spreading rapidly, also it's just because they started testing. Part of me hopes that I did, because I was like really sick. I mentioned this on the podcast a couple 4 or 5 episodes ago, before this all happened. I mentioned how I had basically been sick for like the whole year, and I had just barely stopped being sick. I came out of being sick as the quarantine started, and there's a part of me at the back of my mind that's just like, I hope I just had the Ronies already, and that was it. Because I was just really sick. I wasn't like really sick as in like I have to be bedridden, but I was really sick as in like I was just sick for like 2 months straight. I just couldn't shake it. I was just congested. I just felt like a little bit of like just constant like kind of lightheaded, like just that feeling you have when you're sick, when you just like feel like your head is just kind of like stuffed up and everything's a little bit like cloudy, and having a cough and having like a sneeze and all that stuff. That was like all of January and February for me. So before we so Tyler, you're 3D printing sharks,
Right.
Mm-hmm. What are you guys doing?
I'm writing a new play, and
Those aren't gonna happen anymore.
no, but we're just writing it to write them. Theater's dead. And I'm creating a complicated dad beat song that's taking me very long because I'm using a sample for the very first time.
Oh.
Wow.
I learned
Can we get a clue on who you're sampling or what you're sampling?
Yes, because I'll tell you the title. Fat Guy in a Little Coat.
That's the sample?
Yeah.
That soundbite, or is that
Yeah.
an actual song?
The soundbite.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Wait a second.
I'm already so excited.
It's taken
What
me
are you
talking
forever.
about?
Possessed you to think
Fat
of
guy
that
in a little
specific thing?
You don't know what
it's-
that's from, Kelby?
It's from Tommy Boy.
From Tommy Boy. Fat Guy
Oh.
in a Little Coat.
I was thinking something totally different. I was thinking fat guy in a little coat. Again.
You're just making up a song.
What?
That's
You
not
know,
a,
you know that
what do
song? You know that song?
Yeah, the cat's in the cradle and the
Cradle and-
silver
Yeah, there you
spoon.
go. Okay.
Fat
Wait,
guy
wait.
in a little.
You confused Fat Guy in a Little Coat with Cats in the Cradle?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Where you going, son? Man, I don't know when. Bad guy in a little coat.
What? That's,
Is it fat guy in a little coat?
yeah.
Fat guy in a little coat.
Fat Guy in a Little Coat from Tommy Boy.
Chris Farley puts on David Spade's coat, and he goes, "Fat guy in a little
Yeah.
coat," and it's like it's
Okay.
like barely fitting him, and then he like flexes forward and rips the coat in
Yeah.
half.
It's an iconic moment from the movie.
Yeah.
But
Got it.
you singing it to Cats in the Cradle is the best happy accident I've ever
it's
heard
kind
in
of
my
amazing.
life. That's
Fat guy in a little coat,
And
the
the fat
little
guy-
boy blue and the man on the moon.
his fat coat is. I can't even. So I'm I'm slowly building this song, and we'll unveil it. I'll unveil it on the pod when it's ready. It's a little complicated.
Ooh.
Nice.
It's a lot of emailing myself back and forth.
Dear God.
Yeah.
So before we get into the stories, before we get into the stories, let's follow up on the fuck is that?
The TV. I just forgot to mute it.
We're gonna follow up on this ever continuing saga. So a couple. Yes. Well, that's not one because that's not the ever continuing saga because they're over now.
Oh, the never-ending story.
Yes. So we talked about this over the last couple episodes. The fact that like the box office hit 0 and all the movie theaters are closed down and everything's struggling because of the shutdown, and the fact that people were actually going out to drive-ins for the first time. So basically over this past weekend, drive-in movie theaters have provided the box office with its only pulse. With major movie theater chains shuttered nationwide, studios aren't reporting their box office numbers anymore, but there is a pulse out there, and it belongs to the drive-in movie theaters that still remain open amid the COVID-19 pandemic. According to Deadline, there are 14 movie theater locations still open as of this past weekend, and 13 of them are drive-in movie locations. The theaters that are staying strong amid the pandemic are the Van Buren Drive-In in Riverdale, just that fictional place. In Riverside, California, the Mission Tiki in Montclair, California, the Galaxy Drive-In in Enos, Texas, the Glendale 9 in Glendale, Arizona, the Sacramento 6 Drive-In, the Starlight Drive-In in Cadet, Missouri, the South Bay Drive-In in San Diego, the Auto Drive-In in Greenville, North Carolina, Highway 21 in Beaufort, South Carolina, the Jessup in Georgia, the Ocala in Florida, King Drive in Huntsville, Alabama, Lake Worth in Palm Springs, Florida, and the Epic Theaters of West Volusia, Florida. So these theaters are still open, and they're the only theaters that are driving any kind of box office revenue. There have been reports that drive-ins started to thrive once again when the major theater chains started to go dark on March 15th. While they're not pulling in crazy amounts of money, the uptick was noticeable enough to make an impression. It was clear that anyone that was lucky enough to have a drive-in location near their home, it became time to make this relic of the past new again, to have something close to the theatrical experience. 3 films were still being tracked at the box office over the weekend, and they included The Invisible Man at 7 drive-ins with a gross of $36,000. Jesus. The Hunt with $36,000 at 8 drive-ins, and Onward at 8 drive-ins with a gross of $22,000. All of these films pulled in these grosses despite the fact that they were released early on video on demand, with Onward making its Disney debut on Friday last week. And I think if I remember correctly, the drive-in theater that is closest to where we live that I went to a couple years ago to see the Black Panther, I think it's this one in Montclair.
It wasn't Riverside?
Maybe it's Riverside.
Riverside's closer than Montclair.
Okay, then it must
City
be that
of
one.
Industry? Is City of Industry close?
I mean, it's on this list, so it's probably closed. But yeah, it might be the Riverside one, Van Buren Drive.
Yeah, that would be Riverside. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I've actually talked to my wife about going and checking out a movie. I asked her, I was like, would you feel comfortable going to see a drive-in? And she's like, yeah, probably.
But
so
do you want to see any of those movies?
Well, yeah, I mean, we already saw Onward.
Yeah,
obviously, but
Did you like it? I was just about to ask.
yeah, I liked it a lot. My son loved it. He calls it the Dragon movie.
better title.
Yeah.
Better title.
And I definitely want to see The Invisible Man, but you can get that streaming as well.
Yeah, same with The Hunt.
Yeah, I really don't have any interest in seeing The Hunt.
Why?
I don't know. Just doesn't.
I heard it's not that good. I like Betty Gilpin a lot, but yeah, I wouldn't. If there were different movies, or if they were like, we're going to show a classics or a retrospective, I'd drive to Riverside for that. But for these movies,
100%.
I'm like, nah, let's just stay home.
I mean,
Honestly, I would drive to Riverside just to drive to Riverside.
And not see the movie and come back.
I'd see Invisible Man at the drive-in, even though it's available streaming. Except for the fact that it's just not a movie that we could really see with our kids.
Yeah.
Unless they were asleep.
Yeah, give them some NyQuil before you go.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Good parenting.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really crazy. But even, I mean, it's still funny because it's just like even these numbers are just abysmal.
Yeah. You're like, hey, we did $36,000. And the drive-in's like, yeah, we're flush. We're doing great.
Well, I'm sure at some point in time, like, you know how music sales changed from back in the day when it was like you sold 400,000 copies in a single week, that was just okay. Now, if you sell 400,000, you're like an elite top artist in the world.
Yeah.
I think those numbers might change. Like, those numbers, the movie numbers might change from, making however many million people were making in the first week or first weekend to now the numbers dipping. Like, that might be the norm for the next year, as people are scared to go sit in rooms with other people.
Yeah. Even when things open up, things open up, people still might be like, I'm not ready to go out yet, even though there's new movies. Yeah.
You're going to see Regency Theater talking about, yes, Onward 2 made $1.5 million in the first weekend. Awesome.
They're putting up billboards congratulating themselves. We made $1 million.
Yeah, $1 million on a movie that cost $140 million. Awesome.
Well, on that note, the second piece of this movie theater situation. So Onward is more popular on Disney Plus than in theaters.
Makes sense.
Currently?
Currently. Onward came out before the shutdown, before this all happened. So it was in theaters for 2 weeks before theaters got closed, before this stuff started really coming to a head. So it had 2 weeks of like normal performance, and then it had. And then it immediately they put it out for streaming like 2.5 weeks after it came out in theaters, and then now it's been on Disney Plus as of April 3rd or something.
I mean, it makes sense. Even I watched Onward, and I'm not a big stay at home and watch movies on my TV, but eventually at one point in time I got tired of sitting and working and stuff, so I was just like, I'll see what's on Disney. And I saw Onward, so it makes sense. Plus, it's a family movie. Everybody's at home with their kids, I'm sure the kids don't want to watch Tiger King. So.
My son tried to watch Theo tried to watch Tiger King, and he's like, they just made me sad.
Yeah,
it's really boring,
like,
too.
Do you ever just get into a mode where you're like, have I been wrong this entire time? Are people not as shitty as I believe them to be? And you get down on yourself, and then you watch Tiger King.
Yeah, you got to throw it on.
And you're like, I'm right about everything. People are garbage.
Yeah, look, pop it on. Just pop it on. You're feeling a little optimistic about humanity. Pop it on.
Yeah.
Pop it on.
I don't know if it's because I'm from Florida, but I didn't see a single crazy thing in Tiger King. Honestly, I watched it and was just like, yeah.
You're like, that's the norm?
That's normal.
I wouldn't say it's the norm, but I would just be like, yeah, people out there doing crazy things. I didn't see anything that surprised me. I just thought that's what all like crazy Southern folk. Yeah, there was some bits in Florida. I don't know. I was just like, I thought all Southern white folk did stuff like this. This ain't This ain't different.
Yeah. I mean, it's also not. I mean, I don't think it really like surprises Tyler or I too much either, just because of like living in Bakersfield and knowing like people from Oildale. Like, it's another thing where it's like, yeah, this is kind of how people in Oildale are as well.
Yeah. It's just crazy Southern
Does it
folk,
make
yeah.
Does it make a difference that it's in Florida? Because I'm not going to watch it.
No, it's in
But
Oklahoma.
like, say it was in
Not
like,
in Florida.
it's not in Florida.
No, it's just
Some of it is in Florida. Some of it is in Tampa, Florida, which is the ghetto. Sort of.
Where's it mostly take place?
Oklahoma.
Oh, I thought it was a Florida thing.
no.
Some of it is in Florida. I think Carol effing Baskin.
Fucking Baskins.
I think she lives in Florida, but yeah.
Okay, all right, I stand corrected.
By the way, Andrew, I don't know if you heard of this, and I'm not sure if it's on the list, but AMC.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about AMC. Just really quickly, just to explain why or how they know it's more popular. Onward's popularity has spiked since it arrived on Disney Plus. When looking at the Google search trends for the film, there's a noted increase between how Onward tracked during the weeks before and right after its opening, and how it appears now that it has hit Disney Plus. Just after its release in theaters, it hit 33 on the chart, but after the Disney Plus launch, it reached 42. The numbers refer to search interest relative to the highest point on the chart, which is typically 100. It could continue to increase once its week's data is collected, but so far it's clear that Onward has risen in popularity. Which I just to really quickly, I think it makes sense why the search popularity for, well, there's two reasons that the search popularity would increase for Onward. Number one, I think just the story around it. I kind of feel like Onward, as it was coming out, at least from my perspective, it sort of like slipped through the cracks a little bit compared to your average Pixar movie. Like, I really don't feel like that movie in particular was really on people's radar. It wasn't being talked about in the way that pretty much any other Pixar movie has been talked about, for whatever reason. I don't know why that is, especially because it's got Chris
Because
Pratt
they're
and
like
Tom Holland
elves
in
and
it.
stuff.
Right.
Oh, is
What?
he in it? No, I think it's the images. Like, when I looked at the images on the billboard and stuff, I just was not attracted to it. You know,
Yeah, it is.
if you
It is a
drive-
little bit more of a, like, visually and conceptually, it's a little bit more understated and low key than your average Pixar movie.
It looks like a DreamWorks movie.
And then after that, yeah, it kind of does. And then and then now it's like it's a story that Disney has put it on Disney Plus like so early. So I feel like that is probably a big part of why it's increased in popularity and people searching for it. Another thing is, and this is just a weird personal experience, but like when I tried to watch it, before it was on Disney Plus, we watched it streaming, so we paid to see it because we wanted to watch it then. It dropped on streaming March 26th or something like that, and then it wasn't going to be put on Disney Plus until April 3rd, but we wanted to watch it that night, so we paid for it. And whenever I tried to search it, when I went to Amazon and tried to like find it, I just couldn't find it. And the only way that I could find it was by Google searching it. I had to Google search Onward VOD to find the link to play it. I couldn't find it within Amazon Prime's like own ecosystem, which I think is like an issue with Amazon Prime Video in general. And the reason why I feel like not a lot of people like use it is it's just not a very intuitive interface. It's a little hard to navigate and find stuff, and it's like kind of buried within the bigger ecosystem of Amazon. So I just couldn't find the movie by looking in Amazon, and I had to Google search it. So maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know.
Yeah, I just think Disney was like, we'll put this one out, and I think it's a sleeper hit. It's one of those where, it may have these stars attached to it, which I didn't know. I think I knew Tom Holland was in it, but outside of that, it would just have to it would just take the time for the few people to watch it at first, and like it and talk about it, and then the following weeks is when people would be interested in it, which I think was a strategy because, again, it doesn't look like your typical Disney Pixar movie. The story is the same. You know, there's a parent that's dead, but you know,
Spoiler.
It definitely, man.
Fuck it.
It's free on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Whatever. So yeah, you know, I think that it's kind of its own strategy compared to if Big Hero 7 came out. That'd be totally different, a different approach.
I'm interested if all this never happened and it was just we were just living regular lives. Onward would have not necessarily been a tank, but would have been just something that had been forgotten about, as in
the Green Dinosaur movie.
Say again.
Like that good dinosaur movie.
Oh yeah, where people know about it, they didn't really care that much, and it did fine, and that's it. So it's interesting to see the times have actually affected it.
I haven't seen
Yeah.
I'm not gonna.
It's not bad. It's typical. It's typical Disney. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it enough. It definitely wasn't my favorite. I liked it. It's definitely better than Cars 2, but
Did you tear up ever? Was there any tear up moment?
At Cars 2?
No.
Yes.
no, it wasn't. It wasn't as like emotional as a lot of Pixar movies. Like it definitely was a little bit lighter on everything. It was just a little. It was just a lighter viewing experience. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
There was some more adult jokes in there as well that I didn't expect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very realistic, which is why I don't understand why it was about pixies and elves and stuff. They could have just made them normal people.
Because what kid wants to see a normal person?
Yeah.
Was it
Any kid.
Was it?
No,
Is that the movie
that's not
with
how
the
kids
half,
work.
Spoiler: is that the movie with the half body dad?
Yes.
Yeah, which makes no sense why they call it Onward. I don't know. We're doing too much. We are gonna talk about this AMC thing, and I once again, as we did kind of last time for the Diamond thing, I thought that it'd be cool to bring in more of an expert to talk about the ongoing story of AMC. So I'm gonna dial him in really quick because he's having trouble joining the actual call. A phone call. Tyler, be on your best behavior.
Please be Chad.
Yes.
Please be Chad. Please be Chad. Please be Chad.
So
Is it Mikey D?
Mikey D.
Armin D? Sorry, Mikey Armin D?
Yes.
Yeah.
What is? Hold on. Let me try to.
Okay. Patch him in. That's a quote, right? That's a thing.
While Andrew's working on that,
Okay.
I watched the movie Farewell. Have you guys seen that movie, The Farewell?
Oh yeah,
Farewell?
with Aquafina.
Yeah.
yeah.
Did
Loved
you
it.
like it?
Great movie.
You loved it?
Yeah.
I
loved it.
listened to her This American Life, which is like what it's based on, is her story
Yeah.
that she told for it, and it made me cry and laugh at the same time, which was really weird. It was touching. So I'm imagining the movie's probably just as good.
It's great movie.
It's good. It's a solid movie. I had to read, the whole way through, which made me realize that I read even on American shows, where they only speak English. Like if the subtitles ain't there, I don't understand what they're saying.
Wait, you put captions on even English-speaking shows?
Yeah. The
Okay.
only time I can do fine without captions is if I'm at the movie theaters.
Have
But
you checked your
if
hearing?
I'm watching something at home, yeah, I hear fine.
Kelby is such a capitalist. He's created fake neurosis to make himself pay money to go to the movie theater.
No. I enjoy the movies, but I think at home it's because there's other sounds going on. There's like people eating, or I live with someone else, so there's sounds in the background.
People eating.
Yeah, there's people eating and like blending things and stuff.
Hey.
So,
All right.
yeah.
This is working now. Okay, so
Nice.
like I said, we're gonna talk about this AMC story, and the summary of the story is that basically after several weeks of all movie theaters being closed, most notably one of the biggest theater chains in the country or maybe the world. I don't know. AMC. There's talk of the fact that they may just never recover from this, and they might just never reopen after the shutdown ends. So, I wanted to bring on somebody who has a little bit more knowledge base of the whole situation around AMC and why they're sort of in that situation now. So I brought on my friend. His name is Michael Armendariz. He is an industry employee, and I just want to pick his brain and ask him a couple questions about this, and just get like a more informed story about why this is happening. How's it going?
Good. How are you guys?
Pretty good.
Doing well, and you?
So, So basically, with that in mind, like AMC is a huge corporation, and we all know of them. We've all gone to AMC movies constantly. I love to go to the AMC 16 in Burbank, and you would. Common sense would seem to dictate that a huge corporation like that could handle being closed for a month or whatever. So, from your perspective, what is the reason why AMC is literally just like, well, we're screwed. We were closed for a couple weeks, and now we're gonna go out of business.
Yeah, and I think that what you said right there is that common sense would say that, but I don't think there's any common sense with how they've laid out their company for the last few years. And you and I have talked about that before, so anyone who's not familiar with the AMC in Burbank that Andrew's talking about, it's a huge theater. It's how many? Is 16 in that?
Yeah, it's 16 auditoriums.
But then there's another 2 AMCs within like 2 blocks.
Yeah, they're right around each other, the 8 and the 6.
I feel like it's like less than blocks. It's like literally just there's 3 movie theaters in the same shopping center.
Basically, yeah, that's right.
And stuff like that has happened with AMC, with the acquisitions they've made over the last 10 years. They've bought 2 smaller companies. Well, one major company, Carmike Cinemas, they bought in I think 2016 or 2017, and that effectively expanded their footprint all over the South. There aren't that many, I don't think, on the West Coast, but they had like hundreds of more theaters all of a sudden. They are the hugest company in America, I think in the world, based on how many theaters they own. They bought a chain in Europe as well. So they're huge. They're everywhere. But to echo something that one of my bosses told me when I first got into the industry, so to speak, is that it's a great industry and it's a great business to be a part of because they're never going away. If you look at every economic downturn since the Great Depression, movie theaters and entertainment venues have always soared because people need something to take their mind off of things, need to go and be entertained. No one ever expected another pandemic like the Spanish flu. So all of that advice that I've gotten and that I've always given to kids when I'm hiring people has gone out the window because we never expected anything like this. So it's kind of insane that even in the worst economic downturn, movie theaters. But if you have to close movie theaters, whoops. So that's the problem they're facing right now. Movie theaters are a revolving door of cash. If you have to imagine, I think the AMC in Burbank that Andrew's talking about, imagine the 30-screen complex they have in Times Square in New York, the number of people they have working there at any time. You see all the people behind the counter, you see all the people cleaning theaters, you see the people in box office. There are so many people that need to be there to run that theater. Imagine what it's like for all of those people to not have a job now because there is zero money coming in. We can joke about how a movie does poorly. Birds of Prey, it didn't make that much money. But even Birds of Prey's slowest day wasn't zero revenue coming into a theater. So you're not getting the revenue from tickets. You're not getting the revenue from food. You are at a zero standstill. So that's what AMC is facing now. They had a bunch of debt from buying all these companies, and as long as the doors were open, they had that money coming in to go out to payroll, to banks, and to all of their vendors. But now there's nothing. So it's kind of frightening when you think about it. And then everyone's doomsaying Disneyland and theme parks, they're fine because you don't have 100 Disneylands per state. You have Disneyland, and then that can get up and running when all this is over. You have thousands of movie theaters that are going to be struggling because people are either going to find other jobs, people might not want their job back to be going into the public. So there's just a lot of uncertainty when it comes to movie theaters in general.
I have a question about the leadership at AMC. I had a chance to look at their income statements and their balance sheets from the past 4 years. And I noticed that in 2019 and in 2016, they lost. They didn't make a profit. But in 2016 and 2018, they did make a profit, but it was about the same. In fact, in 2016, they made a little bit more than they did in 2018. So do you feel like in those 2 years when they took a loss, they were preparing themselves for a 5-year plan where they were going to boost those profit margins that they had in 2016 and 2018, or is the folks who are leading the company not adequate enough to grow it the way that it should be growing?
Oh, I can't speak to any of that. I have no idea what their plans are. If you look at it, what's fascinating, if you look at any prognostication that's happened box office wise, and I can't speak for anything in terms of financials, in terms of what people are paid or what any of their other expenses are. If you look at any kind of Hollywood trade or any kind of report every year saying the box office is failing, but Disney had its hugest year ever, or this year was a huge downturn, but it was the hugest year for this and this. It's so rough to say what any company is spending or what they're paying or what they're kind of giving to their executives, because everything is smoke and mirrors. You can say that Disney had the hugest year last year with Endgame and with Star Wars and all of these movies coming out, but then people will then say that box office is still fading and things aren't going anywhere. So who knows what these companies are doing and how they're preparing themselves. I can't speak to any of that. But what I think is interesting is in speaking to AMC managers over the last 5 years, they are always of this mindset that we're going to get bonuses in stock and we're going to have ownership in this company, and I'm not going to get a raise, but I'm going to get stock in return. And you see how much that has failed now too, because there's just this, and I can't speak for how it goes at that company. There's just this weird culture of we're going to buy in on this, but there's again a difference in there being dozens of movie theaters and dozens of AMCs, the same as like there'll be dozens of Starbucks or McDonald's. If one goes away, you can go to the other ones. But when it comes to theaters, who knows what's going to happen? Who knows if people are even going to come back? So that's the problem, where you could say 2016 they had records. Why did 2016 have records when the last biggest movie around that time was Star Wars in 2015, or any of these tracking things? It's really hard to say what anything is.
Do you think that AMC's rapid land grab was a strategy that was going to work in the long run, or at the very least not completely sink them as a company, and the pandemic was just a complete wrench in the works? Or is this just expediting something that was going to happen eventually?
I think this would have happened eventually if all of the naysayers were right in terms of everyone's just going to stream, no one's going to go to movie theaters anymore. I think eventually, on a huge long-term timeline, that would have happened. It's not happening, or it's happening now because no one is literally going to theaters. But I think that they're a smart company. The CEO is a very smart person who knew what they were doing. This all made sense financially as much as anything financially makes sense now. It's not just theaters. Theaters aren't the only thing that are going out of business now. If you look anywhere, so many places are furloughing everybody because of the unprecedented crisis that everyone is facing right now. The problem is with industries like movie theaters, there is literally zero revenue coming in, and they still have to pay rent on their buildings. They still have to pay their employees. Even though all of their employees are gone, I think only the general managers are left for that company, and they're doing essential work right now. But then where are they getting money from? There is literally no money coming in. So I don't think that they are an irresponsible company. I don't think it was a matter of this plan would have never worked. I think as long as money was coming in, they would have slowly gotten rid of all the debt they had. But now, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, we talked. I think it was last episode, or maybe it was a couple episodes ago. We talked about the similar situation in the comic book industry, and we had my friend Dave on, who who to talk about it, and basically like a very identical situation, except for, like you just said, at least with comics are kind of like maybe more screwed because it was already just a struggling industry to begin with, and this might just be like a crippling thing for that. And at least movie theaters were like less struggling and it's just a very huge industry. But the one thing that comics has that movie theaters don't have is a comic shop, and there's a couple comic shops that I go to that I'm on email lists, and I'm sure you are as well, that are at least coming up with ideas of like there's a shop near me, there's a Collector's Paradise, and they're doing a thing now where they're doing like a curated subscription box. So you can basically get you can either get your pull list sent, like, mailed to you, or you can do this curated thing where, like, if you don't have a subscription list, if you don't have a pull list, they'll just send you like a box of curated comics every month or whatever it is, or maybe even every week. And it's like, here's like some comics we think you would like, based on this little questionnaire you filled out of like, I like X-Men and blah blah blah.
You're X-Force number ones.
Yes. So at least they can try to do things like that. Even if it doesn't work at all, they can try to do that. But like movie theaters, like, there's just literally nothing that they can do. It's like, it's exclusively get a bunch of people into a giant room physically and do this. That's what their business is.
Well, then that's the other problem too. Like, let me ask all of you, how brand loyal are you when it comes to movie theaters? Because when it comes to comic book stores, there are some that I will not shop at just based on how they've treated their guests. And I'm kind of the same way with movie theaters. There are chains that I will go to more often than not because I like the brand that they promote and the environment that they have. AMC to me has always been like the McDonald's of movie theaters, where it's like there are so many of them and they don't have an identity. They are like, we are the movie theater brand. We are just generic. If AMC does go bankrupt and then someone else puts a sign on these AMCs, is that going to affect you guys, or are you there for the product?
Yeah, not really. I don't. Yeah, I'm less loyal to chains and more loyal to
Location?
like locations. Like my friend, Dave, the guy who was on the show a couple episodes ago. There was this weird cognitive dissonance one time where I asked him if he wanted to go see a movie, and he was like, maybe. I've pretty much sworn off going to movie theaters. And he said that, like, I just had too many bad experiences, and I feel like every time I go to the movies, they've just gotten so bad and out of hand that, like, you just can't enjoy the movie because there's people talking the whole time, there's people, like, disrupting, and it's just like I literally just, like, went to the movie theaters like 5 times in a row where the whole experience was just completely ruined for me, and I just decided I'm not going to go to the theater anymore. And I thought that was so strange because I never experienced that. Like, there's been a couple times when I've gone to, like, some smaller, like, theaters, like second run theaters or whatever, where it's just like families trying to, like, pass some time for a couple hours and keep their kids occupied for cheap, where, like, you'll have bad experiences like that. But, like, I just never experienced that. When I go to the theaters, it's always fine. And I realize that it's because of the location. I go to either AMC 16 or the Lamley Theater in North Hollywood, which are in these areas that I guess are just, you know, it's not like situations where you have a bunch of kids, like parents bringing their kids. They're kind of more expensive, so they sort of, like, you really have to commit to go, like, if you're going to this theater, like, you're serious about it. Like, you're not just going there to, like, let your kids run through the aisles, and you're not gonna be talking the whole time because you paid $20.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem. I think I'm more. I never thought of it that way. I think I'm more brand loyal to like a place like Alamo Drafthouse.
Well, that's a separate thing. Like, yeah, like independent theaters, and I guess Alamo isn't necessarily independent anymore. They've kind of franchised out. But like, yeah, that's like, I'm talking about like legit chains, like AMC versus.
Considered that if someone, like I said, if someone slapped a different name onto that AMC 16, I'd probably go there just because it's not going to matter to me what the name is as long as the experience is okay. But that's what it is. It's different based on region. So some people can say, yeah, I had a great time seeing this movie, and then like again, let me ask you guys. I don't know if you've seen that tweet going around about the opening night audience audio put onto Avengers Endgame, where it's like you can relive that moment when Cap got Thor's hammer, and someone has a bootleg from opening night of Avengers Endgame, and they've spliced the audience. Everyone's like, "Look how great this is!" And all I have in my mind is like, who was recording opening night, and like, how dare they? But it's interesting to see how people are like, "This is why I miss movie theaters." And in my mind, I'm like, I would have hated that. Like, I would have liked cheering, but like, this is insane. So it just movie theaters mean so many things to so many different people that I think they're not going to go away. I think AMC going bankrupt is going to be horrible for the company and the people they employ, but I don't think movie theaters are going away. So all of this is the one time I can say I think the press is trying to fearmonger in terms of like, look what's going to happen. AMC is going to go away, but there are so many more movie theaters to go to. These theaters aren't going to just disappear. So I think everything is going to be fine. There are, again, to go to the point earlier, there's so much smoke and mirrors when it comes to movie theaters and how successful they are in the first place that these are going to survive no matter what. Consider how the urban legend being that movie theaters before were failing and now they're bustling and they sell out every night. You look at when movie theaters started getting rid of those really narrow seats that used to be everywhere and started putting in recliners that take up twice the space of an old seat. Yeah, on paper, these theaters are selling out every night, but it's less attendance than it was before because less people fit into these auditoriums in the first place. So on paper, they're going to find any way that they can to make sure that they're successful going forward. So again, I don't think there's anything to worry about, but I think it is a big wake-up call for these theaters to say, okay, if this happens again, what procedures are in place? What can we do to make it safer? And the horrible thing about this tragedy of these thousands of people dying is that there is going to be a brighter spot in the future where things are safer and cleaner and better and hopefully a lot more financially safe.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to. Did anyone else have any other questions about this?
No, I think you're right. It truly doesn't matter if it's an AMC or a Regal. It's what's convenient, what's playing at what time. I don't care as long as I can get the movie I want to see at the time I want to see it. So if AMC goes under, that would be bad. But if all those theaters in the worst case scenario got replaced by Regal or some completely different theater chain, I'd be like, oh, okay, well, I guess this is my new theater now because this is what has movies that are closest to me. So I can't imagine anyone else being particularly brand loyal. It's just wherever you can get your movie.
I'm more interested. I'm more interested in the price. You know, however much I pay. I can't say I have bad experiences at the movie theater because I go to dollar movie theaters and it's fine for me. But I am very interested in just the financial side of this entire thing because when I looked into it and I saw that one of the chief executive members and board members explained that they only had enough cash flow through to last them through to July. It made me start doing some of this. What was that? Yeah, yeah. So they had enough to take them to July. It made me ask several questions, especially since they haven't had a profitable year in about 2 years now. That means that they're just burning through either savings or debt. So at this moment right now, are employees still getting paid?
As far as I know, with AMC's, nobody is getting paid. I've heard that well, not even I've heard, it's been in Variety and Hollywood Reporter, their entire corporate office, which has about 600 vice presidents and general and regional managers, they've all been completely furloughed. The CEO is getting paid right now. They've all let them be furloughed, and they have a very bare bones staff. So I mean, they're taking this seriously and not letting it get more out of hand, but to have something like that go into effect so fast, they had to have had these emergency plans made in case something happened, because you don't hear people complaining about how unfair it is. They seem to have been prepared for this.
Yeah.
And that's what's one of those crazy things. If you look back at their profits, 2016, 17, 18, if you look at those and what they post, put that up against what movies made those years, and you'll see people say this was a record box office year, so this movie theater chain lost 100 and however many $1 million. And that's another, like, one of those things that you never factor in when it comes to movie theaters. Movie theaters make their money on concessions. I mean, that's what everyone has always said, and then that is a truth out there. They make so little money on the tickets that are coming in, so you have to factor in, say we had a lax year in ticket sales, but people are still buying food when they come in, that's going to affect that bottom line also. So there are so many factors to make a movie theater profitable or not profitable. The only wild card I would say that you have to look at AMC is look at their acquisitions and look at their corporate structure over the last 10 years. I can't remember when the company, the Dalian Wanda company from China, bought them. I think it was in 2012. But just look at all of the different paths they had to go to become the largest cinema operating exhibitor in the world, where all that money was, and was that money real, how much of it was liquid, how much of it was like, we're going to put this on the back burner because we're going to make it back, and then multiply that by just the uncertainty of a family coming to a movie and either buying a Coke and popcorn or buying 3 popcorns and 3 Cokes. It's crazy. It is an insane industry. When you put it up against other entertainment venues like Disneyland, they're going to make money no matter what if people walk through the park. You have to make money on people coming in and buying food. That's why so many people are aggressive in terms of their upselling at theaters. So if you look at it, it's a rough business. So there are so many things more than just ticket sales or sold out shows. It's crazy.
Now, my final question and my final statement for you is, movie theaters will sell you 4 teaspoons of popcorn and a large Coke for $78, and you telling me you're going out of business? How's that possible?
That was the most Kelby thing ever.
And you know what? There is almost no defense in it. But then if you look at any Facebook like viral post right now about what's going on during the pandemic, look at a meal you get at a restaurant, let's say Olive Garden, compared to going and getting those ingredients and making it at home. Of course, there's a markup, but I mean, there's a matter of what people want to eat at theaters, and somehow people love that popcorn and they want that popcorn, and I don't understand that at all. I think it was the years that I was around popcorn at a movie theater that I started hating it. My girlfriend hates the fact that I hate popcorn because she wasn't around it 12 hours a day and just hates it. But people love that stuff. So, I mean, that's what it's going to be. If people stopped buying popcorn, I think those prices would go down. But who's to say on that? But I agree with you. I sometimes, if I go to a movie theater that's not a dine-in, that's not like an Alamo Drafthouse or like a Studio Movie Grill, I balk at the $12, $15 popcorn, but I have no problem paying $10 for fried cauliflower. It's just that cognitive dissonance that's there where it's like, oh, that's acceptable versus everything else.
Yeah, I always just buy the stuff when I go to a theater just to support it. Like, I mean, I want snacks when I'm there, but most of it is me just being like, I'm going to turn off my brain and just pay whatever they're asking, just so I can say like that I was supporting a movie theater. Even if it's like a big chain like that. But yeah, I mean, I've always loved going to the theater, and I've also worked at movie theaters, but I have never personally liked popcorn. It's just I just don't like it.
Movie popcorn sucks.
You guys
Hot
are
take.
all terrible people for saying that.
Yeah.
I was keeping quiet because I didn't want to cause a scene, but
Yeah.
now I'm gonna have to say something because movie popcorn is the staple of my childhood. It's what created this fucking body.
It's what his family fed him for dinner every night.
The super soldier serum, and look what it got.
Yeah. They went out into the dumpsters and got those trash bags of popcorn that they throw away at the end of the night, and that was Tyler's dinner.
You know, you guys have mentioned price too. Have any of you bought any of these early release movies that have come home? Like when theaters shut down, The Invisible Man, Onward, The Hunt, they were all in theaters. Bloodshot. Have any of you paid for those at home?
No.
We bought Onward because we didn't want to wait. I mean, it was a frivolous thing of just like not waiting a week or whatever. But we wanted to
watch it.
What?
Did you let the kids watch it?
Yeah, that was why we got it to watch with we got it to watch with my son on the night that it came out streaming, and we just didn't want to wait until April 3rd for when it was on Disney Plus, which is like if we were in any way financially struggling, we wouldn't have done that, but we were just like, yeah, let's watch it. And I want to watch The Invisible Man. I just haven't done it yet.
That's what I find so rough in this. AMC has their, and I'm not a part of it, so I don't know what it is, but I think you're a member of their Stubs program, right, Andrew? Or their whatever their program is.
I used to be.
They have like their own streaming service now where you can watch movies, and it's basically like a shell, like sort of like you get anywhere, where it's like you can buy your movies through here and just watch it through our platform. It's not like they get exclusives or they're like AMC originals. But what I thought was interesting is that Universal seemed to have pulled the trigger really fast and were like, our movies are going on demand as soon as possible so you can make some money. I wish there had been some sort of like portal through movie theaters, kind of like where some chains are doing now, where it's like, I want to see Onward, I'm going to buy it through AMC so that they get a little cut of this money, and then I still watch it, instead of it being the studios sort of being like, hey, screw you guys, we're putting these up, $20, come watch our movie. I was surprised that
bypassing the exhibitors.
Yeah, that was interesting. So I'm wondering how that's going to be when it comes back. And then, since all those stories are going around, if you don't mind me asking you guys, the idea being that when theaters reopen, there might be a mixture of like one new movie and a bunch of classics coming up instead of it being all these new releases at once. Are you guys going to, I hate to say risk, but are you guys going to go to movie theaters to watch these older movies on the big screen again?
Absolutely, yes.
100%.
Yeah,
Yes,
I would definitely not do that.
We talked about this a couple episodes ago. We talked about the idea that theaters were thinking about doing this thing of like exhibiting old movies just as a way to like get people back into the theater and transition from this state of like we're all scared to leave our houses to like going into a movie theater, which is kind of a frivolous thing to do when you're scared of leaving your house or whatever. And I definitely would. I think that'd be. We talked about this. Is that it'd be cool to do.
Yeah, glad to hear that, because I mean
never
that's
do
what's
it.
scary.
But not Kelby, because
Kelby
not
hates old things.
yeah,
I don't
Kelby,
hate old things. That's
Kelby
Tyler.
Kelby won't watch anything that was made before the year 2006.
False. I'm not gonna pay to go watch something that was made in the year 2006. I'm stealing it.
But that's the
Wait.
that's the thing though, is that I already do that. Like I already go see old movies all the time and pay exorbitant amounts of money for them. So
You have a job.
What's
I'm talking about before this.
yikes. What movie are you hoping they do bring back to see in theaters one more time?
God, that's so rough. And again, not to be so like Alamo Drafthouse, but like I went and saw like one of my last theatrical experiences was going
K-Pax?
K-Pax.
Get the fuck out of here,
I
K-Pax.
cried so much at that beautiful story. It was a double feature of K-Pax and Pay It Forward, and my God, if anything, told me the power of cinema. I went and saw Rope and then 1917 right after it, and it was interesting just that confluence of two one-shot, ostensibly one-shot
yeah.
movies. And it was great seeing a movie where, and it was weird with Rope, where it's like there was a moment in Rope where I was like, you know what? Everyone I'm seeing on camera is dead. Like everyone involved in this movie is dead, and that was like this weird moment. But it was like it still engrossed me, and it was still this powerful thing that I will admit I've never seen Rope before. To see it on the big screen was great. I think any older movie would be great, and I think that this is an opportunity for us to rope in those teenage kids that oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that's smart. This is our chance to pay it forward and see. But imagine if we got these movies where parents now could take their kids to see them that they've never seen on a big screen, like Raiders of the Lost Ark on a big screen, the 4K that they just like remastered and showed in theaters like 2 or 3 times for its 30th anniversary. Let's put that out there and like have these things where you can rope them in and get kids to realize, hey, movies are cool, and we do have to see them on the big screen compared to like doing a Quibi thing on your phone. So who knows, man?
100%. Yeah, I mean, I've taken my son to see old movies exactly the way you're describing, but before this even happened, just in my normal life, and yeah, seeing old movies on the big screen is kind of eye-opening a lot of the time. It's weird to even intellectualize it because you're just like, what would be the difference other than just the fact that it's literally bigger? But like, you notice things that you just never noticed before when you see a movie that came out before you were born or when you were little or whatever that you obviously never saw in theaters, to see a movie that you saw first on TV, and then to see it on the big screen, you'll just notice things that you never noticed before. Even if you've seen the movie a million times, it's a surreal experience to see a movie that you love and have seen 100 times, but then to see it like on the big screen, maybe in like a more restored format. Maybe a 4K conversion or whatever it is, and just notice stuff that you never know. It's like listening to an album on like vinyl with like really good headphones, and you're like, oh crap! Like I never noticed there was this like guitar part like over here or whatever. It's like that.
And that's my worst fear, is that these ideas of we're gonna play some classics when we open back up. If the idea of classics is like Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yeah.
Like, oh, good job. You're bringing people back.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. This is an important opportunity for them to do a really good job doing that. So, fingers crossed.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on, Mike. Thanks for talking about all that. Before you go, is there anything you want to plug at all?
No. Say it like that, but I literally have nothing going on right now. If you guys want to add me on PS4 for some Destiny, I'm at Mike Blacklist on PS4, and hopefully we can get some raids.
Tyler's got one of those.
Nice. But yeah, just other than that, just like I implore people to go back to theaters when they reopen, and just stay safe. I know that I don't know how much you guys want to talk about current affairs, but it's like, let's do our part and let's at least stay home. Like, how many other times are we going to be asked to stay home? And it's tough for the people that are unemployed right now, so I feel for all of you out there, and I hope that everyone stays safe. But I mean, just let's do what's right, and let's have there be an opportunity for us to go back to movie theaters by doing our part right now, so it can happen sooner than later. Because it just snuck into me now that I'm not going to Comic-Con this year, and that was kind of like crazy. So let's just let's do what we can to make sure that things go back to normal.
Yeah. Is that Blue Beetle behind you?
Yes, that's a Blue Beetle behind me.
Nice.
So for Blue Beetle's sake, inside.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Great day.
Bye.
All right, now that Mike's gone, we can talk about it.
No,
He's not. He's still there.
How do I end the call, Andrew?
I'll do it. Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Awkward.
Okay, cool. So So let's let's talk about a couple of these stories. We don't have to spend too long on these. We talked about that for a while, and honestly, that's more interesting than some of these mostly stories of delays. So we'll just quickly blow through a couple of these stories, and then we'll take a quick break. Marvel has, or Disney has, the other Hulk-sized shoe has dropped. Marvel has finally changed its entire release schedule in response to COVID-19. So basically, they've completely changed the release schedule for Phase 4 of the MCU. Let's see. Marvel Studios announced that what the next several years of the MCU would look like at San Diego Comic-Con last year. These announcements began with revealing what films would release in 2020 and 2021. Then Black Panther 2 became the first film to receive official 2022 release date. However, the carefully crafted nature of the Phase 4 slate has changed because of the coronavirus. So in order to give Black Widow a new release date, Marvel Studios has announced a complete Phase 4 reshuffling. Black Widow will now come out on November 6th of 2020, taking the date the Eternals previously held. As a result, Eternals has moved to February 12th of 2021, Shang-Chi and the Legends of the Ten Rings to May 7th of 2021, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness to November 5th, 2021, Thor Love and Thunder to February 18th, 2022. The adjustment also brought about the announcement of that Captain Marvel 2 will come out on July 8th of 2022. In addition to Marvel-related stuff, there's also been some changes on just the general Disney end. So Mulan was originally... We talked a couple episodes ago about the rumor that Mulan and Black Widow would be released digitally, but it doesn't seem like that's the case at all. Mulan, which was scheduled for March and already had its red carpet premiere, will now open July 24th of this year. The Pixar release Soul has not been changed from its June 19th release date. Disney has shifted some other movies. The Kenneth Branagh directed science fiction adventure adaptation Artemis Fowl will go to Disney Plus instead of opening in theaters. The movie had originally had a slate for release in August. In May. It was announced last August that it was going to be released in May, but now it's going on Disney Plus instead of coming out in theaters. Jungle Cruise has been pushed back a full year to July 30th, 2021. Indiana Jones has been pushed to July of 2022. Wes Anderson's The French Dispatch is postponed to from July to October 16th of this year. So that's pretty much just Disney announced a bunch of delays and shuffling of its schedule. So we're getting a lot of these movies a lot later than we originally were.
I know that a lot of it's like, we're holding on to these because, we don't want to just give them away on streaming, and we're going to kind of hold them back so we can, release them in theaters when things are fine and make some serious cash. But what if people hate these movies and they're like, oh, we could have put it on streaming. Why didn't we put it on streaming? People hate this movie. I'm curious if that happens. If some movie that they're holding on to, they're holding on to it because they're like, we're not giving this away. We want to hold on to this and make some cash. And then people are like, this movie sucks.
I think it has less to do with what people are going to consider about the actual film versus the necessity of one film following the next one. So there would be, let's say, like the Black Widow. Her story, I'm sure, is a part of a complex amount of other stories. I see. As well as if they keep one, let's say if they put one today, they drop one today, and it's a push, they would be hurting the one that was already scheduled to come out next week, by dropping them so close together. So it's kind of that mix of this story needs to be told in order for that story to be told, but to maximize on how much we could make, there needs to be at least 2 or 3 or 4 months in between them. So it gets pretty complex.
Oh, so maybe these stories are connected and you can't just kind of willy-nilly throw them out to the public. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't
Yeah, because
say
if you
like
really think about Iron Man, or not Iron Man, but after Avengers. After Avengers came Spider-Man, so it couldn't have been the other way. You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying. Good point.
yeah, you can't just say like, oh, Black Widow is going to come out in March, but it can't. So we're going to move that to well, we can't do it in July because the Eternals is coming out. And we can't do it in October because whatever is coming out. So let's just put it after that. You can't do that because chronologically the stories are being told in a certain way. So you have to shift the whole thing back.
So the whole, it's taken as a whole rather than as an individual movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a part of a phase 4.
Okay. Wow. That's, who knew that would be something to consider in this time?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last story before we take a quick break. So we're starting to see the beginning of the coronavirus. The coronavirus inspired censorship of pop culture. And if you remember, if you're old enough to have been around whenever 9/11 happened, then you saw that in the wake of the tragedy, there was a lot of different. It completely changed it changed the whole country irrevocably forever. But one of the things that it changed was just the sensitivity of the way that we address certain things, especially in the first couple years after it happened. We suddenly became a lot more sensitive about the way that we depicted certain types of violence and certain types of destruction. It really took a number of years before people were really comfortable with like depicting like buildings getting blown up or planes crashing or a crowd of people being attacked or killed or hurt in some way, unless it was a movie specifically about 9/11, in which case that was pretty much the only way that it was acceptable. But most notably, some of the biggest changes that came out of that were that the Spider-Man. There was a scene where it was hanging between the twin towers with his web like stuck to both towers on either side, and he was hanging in the middle upside down. And that shot was in the trailer for the movie, and it was obviously like a very like iconic shot. Like that was gonna be like the shot. And then 9/11 happened before the movie was released, so they cut that scene out of the movie entirely. And like I think we actually talked about this on Nostalgicast one time, but there was a scene in Lilo and Stitch where they're chasing after Stitch, the two aliens that come to the Earth to try to capture him, and they hijack a plane and they chase Stitch in his little spaceship, and they end up like flying through the city, like downtown Hawaii or whatever, and kind of crashing into a building with the wings and crash landing the plane in the middle of the city. And so they changed that. They reanimated it to be, instead of them hijacking a plane, they reanimated it to just be a different spaceship. And then they cut out the part where they're flying through the city, and they completely remade the scene to just take out any reference to anything involving planes or cities or anything with a city being attacked or anything like that. And there was a bunch of other examples. And now we're going to start seeing that kind of censorship and avoidance of certain topics in pop culture more and more. And this is the first one I've seen. So Magic the Gathering, which is a card game, they teamed up with Toho, which is a Japanese production company that, amongst many other things, makes the Godzilla movies. And they teamed up with them to do a special Godzilla or Toho kaiju line of Magic the Gathering cards. So you could get like decks of like Magic the Gathering with like Godzilla characters in it and stuff like that, like Godzilla and Rodan and King Ghidorah and all these things. And that was announced a couple weeks ago. And I don't play Magic the Gathering anymore. But I still thought it was cool because I used to play Magic the Gathering and I love Godzilla. So I saw that and I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like maybe I'll at least just maybe get a couple of the booster packs just to have the cards. Wizards of the Coast and Toho joined forces to release this line, but there was one specific card in the first print run for the cards that was going to release very very shortly, and it was a card called Space Godzilla Death Corona. The Corona Beam is the official name for one of the Space Godzilla's attacks, and the card was called, in Japanese, it was called the Corona Beam of Death. And in the United States, the card was going to be called Space Godzilla Death Corona. And so Wizards of the Coast are going to alter both cards, removing any mention of the word Corona. The new English language card, for example, will read Space Godzilla Void Invader. And the Japanese language one will have the equivalent of that.
That was my nickname in high school.
Oh, God. Jesus Christ.
And
Yeah,
you know
so,
that song, Death Corona?
Hey, give me a second.
Yes. Death Corona.
Corona, yeah.
Ooh, you're such a deadly one. When I'm gonna catch me some Death Corona.
Corona.
Hey, that's hard.
It's just as good as Fat Guy in a Little Coat. Yeah,
you hear songs as Weird Al parodies. Yeah, so I mean, I'm not even saying that in necessarily a negative way, like, oh, censorship is bad or whatever. I mean, it is kind of ridiculous, but I understand why people don't want to be reminded of these things. It's kind of ridiculous to be like, oh, we can't say this because it's disrespectful. Like, it's unrelated. The Corona Beam is a move that has existed since the 70s. It has nothing to do with it, so it's kind of ridiculous. But also, it's like I'm not too mad about it. I get why they're doing it.
Yeah,
And
it's not that big of a deal, but
if I see any of you guys drinking a Corona beer, it's done. I'm never talking to you again.
Yeah. I mean, that was you didn't even have to. That was a thing that I wasn't doing before. All right. Well, since Tyler dropped the mic and he's never coming back to the podcast ever again because that was too good. We're gonna take a quick break. We come back. We're gonna do our regular segment. Can you go for that?
After these messages, we'll be right back.
And we're back. And now it's time for our regular segment where we talk about rumors or unsubstantiated nostalgic stories and give our opinions about whether we think they're a good idea or not. This segment is called Off My Game. Can you go for that? Oh, oh, oh. Oh, can you? Oh, can you go for that? Oh, oh, oh. Oh, can you? Oh, can you go for that? Oh, oh, oh. Oh, can you? Oh, can you go for that? Can you go for that? Can you go for that? Couple stories.
Yeah.
I know. We talked about the idea of like doing, can you go for that? Repurposing it as a thing of like pitching ideas for things, which I still think is a great idea, but I did not have time to do that. I did not have time to do that this week.
I just remembered it the second you said it.
So it sounds like
All of my ideas come off the top of my head anyway, so.
Oh God.
Spit hot fire.
So we'll do it next week.
Okay.
There are a couple stories here. The first one is that there's word that a Doogie Howser reboot is in the works at Disney Plus. Disney Plus is reportedly developing a new version of the 1989 to 1993 medical drama Doogie Howser, medical dramedy, Doogie Howser MD, which will put a female character at the center of the story. Tentatively titled Doogie Kiloha MD, the potential series will focus on a half-Asian, half-white 16-year-old girl who works as a doctor in Hawaii. Courtney Kang, who served as a producer on How I Met Your Mother throughout its 9-season run, will write and executive produce. The original Doogie Howser, which ran for 4 seasons on ABC, starred Neil Patrick Harris as the titular prodigy, a teenage physician who tried to balance the challenges of practicing medicine with day-to-day struggles of adolescence. The main cast also included Max Casella, James B. Sicking, Belinda Montgomery, Lisa Dean Ryan, and Lawrence Pressman. So what do you think? What do you think, Kirk? As the only person
who saw it?
How dare you? I've seen every.
I can go for that. Sure, why not? You don't need. I like Neil Patrick Harris, but you don't need him for that show or any other person. Just put another entertaining person of color in there, and there you go. I like it. It's going to be a good show.
Did you say another
can go
entertaining
for that.
person of color?
Yeah, someone different. So it's not just another we're going to reboot Doogie Howser, but it's going to be another white guy.
Gotcha.
Don't,
You said
don't
another like the first one was a person of color.
Oh.
Like Neil Patrick
Well.
Harris.
Oh, I mean, he is.
But I can go for that. I mean, the show wasn't mind-blowingly good when it came out, but it was good enough. So let's have at it and see what they can do with it. Boom.
Ephraim, stop unplugging it. You can sit here, but you don't unplug that.
What?
Don't unplug that. I have to be able to talk. You can sit here. You can be on the podcast, but you have to leave that alone.
I need to spin it.
No. Stop. Ephraim, I'm going to take the headphones off you and put you down. You don't stop that. All right, Kelby.
As you were saying it at first, I was like, I would never watch that. But then you said it was a female. Then you said it was a female, and she's half Asian. I guess I can't. I kind of feel like I'm in a position now where if you say certain keywords, I'm not allowed to not like it. So, sure, I can go for that.
Jesus Christ.
That was a begrudgingly I can go for that.
It's I don't want to be canceled, so I go for that.
Yeah, but honestly, I would
Tell
never
me.
watch that show. I would never watch that. But I don't find it
canceled.
particular.
Oh.
I don't find it particularly interesting. So, but sure, I can go for that.
It's probably a good, because this is what it was in the beginning the original. It's a good family show. You watch it with your family.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Yeah.
It's 30 minutes or an hour?
Yeah.
It's
It
30
was
minutes
30.
or an hour?
Yeah. It was 30.
30.
All right. Well, I guess maybe I do like How I Met Your Mother. So if she was a writer and you said a showrunner on that, then maybe she will bring some of that comedy over to that show. So you know what? I will say I can go for that. Yeah.
You got to assume that
Way
you got to
to
assume
sell
that
yourself.
you got to assume that NPH is involved in some way. Otherwise, that's just a
Absolutely.
total coincidence that it's the How I Met Your Mother person doing it.
Yeah.
and he's just
Right.
not in it.
He's got to have some sort of cameo every now and then.
for sure.
I just like the thought of like every day on the How I Met Your Mother set, Neil Patrick Harris was like, wouldn't it be like crazy if they just rebooted Doogie Howser? Wouldn't that be weird? Wouldn't it just be crazy? And then she was like, fine, I'll do it.
And he was like, I was joking.
Yeah, I was joking. I can go for that.
No, don't press buttons.
I definitely want to see more Doogie Howser. I don't care if it's not the same one.
Give me the Doogs.
Yeah. Do again.
The Doogs is something else,
Yeah.
Kirk.
But here's
you need to go to a doctor about that.
Here's a question: Are we being more progressive? And this is not a serious thing. Like I don't want to get into this too much. But are we being more progressive, just replacing male characters with females, or are we saying that that there's really no difference, or it is different enough between men and women that we can just put a woman in there and call it something new under the same name? You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying there?
What do you think, Ephraim? Do you think
The only person I care about.
do you think it's progressive to gender swap a previously male character with a female character? Ephraim says yes.
He nodded.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I'm here for it then.
Yeah.
I think at some point we should
Gender
get
swap, race swap.
have to grab something.
Yes.
Okay. I think at some point it ideally becomes a thing where it's just not. It's just a non-issue. Like
Right.
it's just like it's not even a thing. It's just like yeah, like you know.
Daddy, I have to grab
Oh, you had to grab your mouse.
I just
Okay.
I just mean like
No, well,
way,
yeah.
the way that they're using it, it just seems like they're not being any more creative. They're just like, here's a woman in the role, and you guys are gonna eat it up, and they're not just like.
That's kind of
Yeah,
that's,
it
that's
doesn't
kind of what
feel
I was.
very genuine. It doesn't feel genuine.
Yeah,
Right.
that's kind of what I was getting at. Is I think that right now it's being used as a sort of corporate tool of like, oh, people like we'll get like hashtag ally posts on Twitter if we make these things where it's like specifically like it's a statement. If you reboot some old thing that had women in it or whatever, or if you make a new thing that had women in it, like that's great and that should happen. But specifically whenever you gender flip something that was a guy and it's now a girl, it's like a statement. And it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing, but I think that it's kind of being done for reasons that are just not necessarily genuine. It's being done for reasons that are like, oh, if we do this, we'll get kudos and people will. It's good. It's a good brand move.
Just kind
for
of
us. And so it's like it's kind of like a thing of like a good thing happening for the wrong reasons, but it's not necessarily like fine. Like if it has to happen for the wrong reasons, then fine. It's kind of like how people are, you know, a lot of people get like hybrids or electric cars, not necessarily because they give a crap about the environment, but because it's cheaper. Like in the long run, if you can afford to make that initial upfront investment in a more expensive kind of car, in the long run, it's just a lot cheaper for you to not have to buy gas, and a lot of people are motivated by that.
I have a new charger for you.
Nice, thank you.
Put in your thing.
Put it in my thing.
Yes.
Okay, I'll put it over here. Check it out. A lot of people are more motivated by that than they are about caring about the environment or global warming or whatever. So it's kind of like, oh, like you're kind of doing this for the wrong reasons, but at least it's happening. That's how I kind of feel about it. I feel like it's a little bit disingenuous of the companies, and they're just kind of like capitalizing off of of a trend, or not a trend, but like they're capitalizing off of a sea change and kind of exploiting it in a way. So I do feel like it's a little bit disingenuous. Not to say it's a bad thing, but ideally it gets to a point one day where it's just a non-issue. Whether or not a character is played by a man or a woman just becomes irrelevant, and it just becomes an arbitrary choice. Where it's like, you know, who cares if 007 is a guy or a girl or whatever?
Apparently everybody.
Yeah, I mean, now they do. They very much care. And I don't even want to get into the whole Doctor Who thing, where Doctor Who was made a woman in her most recent incarnation, and also Doctor Who is kind of not doing well ratings-wise anymore, and the show is kind of floundering a little bit, and it's all being blamed
talked
on the
about
fact
this
that
last
she's
week.
a woman now. But yeah,
We talked about this last week. We talked about this last week. I just think people feel that thing where these corporations are trying to appeal to people based off of what people are saying on Twitter, and what people say and what people will purchase, or the actions people will take, they don't always reflect one another. So I am interested to see what will happen with the show if it actually does happen, but I think they doubled it this time, you know, after the success, and you know, it takes Hollywood one good independent success for everybody to jump on the wave. I think after the success of Crazy Rich Asians and Always Be My Maybe and these other predominantly Asian based films and pieces of content, now they're gonna want to jump on the boat, and it feels like it's for a financial reason and not for like we actually want to represent these people in our show. So I don't know. It kind of rubs people the wrong way.
The reason why it bothers me, I think, is not necessarily the thing. Like, it's not the thing that bothers me is not the thing that is being done, the thing that is being made, or what it represents. The thing that bothers me about it is I feel like it just feels a little dangerous for things like this to happen and be done for this sort of like corporate brand move, because I feel like some people, they think that it's enough to. There's this psychological thing where Disney is going to make a gender flipped Doogie Howser show, and some people will post about that and be like, Disney is being an ally, blah 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 blah, and then like they're done for the day. That's their contribution to society, is just posting about this thing and saying like, good job Disney, and then they're just done, and it's like they don't have to do anything else to actually contribute to the world becoming more progressive. They just have to talk about some dumb show that's being rebooted, and then they've done their part. That's the part that kind of bothers me about it, where it's like it's being done in this disingenuous way where they're just trying to generate buzz and engagement around them being progressive, and then a lot of people just utilize that as like their daily contribution to the world, and I'll love it whenever these things just become so commonplace that they're not a focus anymore, and people can actually focus on more important things.
Well, honestly, Disney is probably punching the air right now, because as the only person who saw Onward, I noticed something that they did that I think that they're going to continue doing. One of the police officers in Onward was a lesbian black woman. It was pretty obvious the way she spoke,
and it's like
and
really
like
subtle, not subtle. Mm-hmm. Like she blatantly says it, but it's like it's just it's a passing moment. It's like it's literally like a 3-second thing.
Pieces and they were waiting for people to tweet it and say, "Wow, I feel represented," and things like that.
Oh no. I don't know. I feel like my statements are getting a little. Are getting a little just like marred in my attempt at navigating the situation. But I don't dislike the thing. I'm just a little skeptical of the intentions behind it, and the way that people just think like, oh, like I can just say that I can just post this thing and just I'm done for the day. I don't.
What does that have to do with Disney? Why? What does that have to do with? I don't get the correlation.
Because they're just doing it for a purely cynical reason. They're doing it specifically just so people pat them on the back.
We're done.
We're done?
Oh, we're done? Oh, is that it for the pod?
Yeah. From now on, he decides. Disney's doing it or these companies in general are doing these things for purely cynical reasons. They're just doing it because it's the thing to do, and it's a good brand move for them.
Well, yeah, but I think that's nothing new. That's not like they were altruistic beforehand. They're just doing the same thing. I'd almost be like, good for them for going, hey, we can make money off of this. Let's do that because there's potential.
Well,
that kind of evens the playing field.
I guess give him any credit for that.
I guess what I'm saying is, I don't fault them for doing these money-making moves, I guess. What I'm saying is, I just don't want people to be fooled by these things and think that they are altruistic, because I think a lot of people do. A lot of people just think like, oh, Disney is like they're woke, and they're not really. They're just
that's on them. Hey, people, don't be stupid.
Yeah,
problem solved.
I mean, I agree, but
yeah.
I'm just saying that that's sort of my issue with it. Is I just don't want people. I don't want people to have like the wool pulled over their eyes and just think that this is anything more than just a business move by somebody who sees a sea change coming. Because as the one thing that I kind of agree with Ricky Gervais about when he did his whole Grammys thing or whatever is like these companies are literally like employing like sweatshop slave labor in other countries and stuff like that. Yeah. So I guess so I aside from all of that, we got off on a tangent, but aside from all of that, I can't go for that because I watched Doogie Howser. I think I watched the whole show. Not when it was airing. I probably because the show started in '83, so it's a little before my time. But I watched it in syndication on whatever channel. And I think it was fine.
Yeah.
I liked Doogie Howser. Okay, I don't need another Doogie show.
It's a family show.
And then the last story. So the unmade third Scooby-Doo movie from the 90s that never got made. The writer has revealed during a Q&A what the movie was going to be about. And if you don't know, the writer of those Scooby-Doo movies from the 90s, the late 90s, where Freddie Prinze Jr. was Fred and Sarah Michelle Gellar was Daphne and Dabney, sorry.
Dabney.
And the live-action Scooby-Doo movies. They were written by James Gunn, who wrote and directed the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and he's writing and directing the Suicide Squad reboot. And it was really weird at the time because before any of this, like James Gunn was originally he was part of the Troma filmmaking collective, so he made Troma movies, which Troma is like this just schlocky, really like it's a production company that makes cranks out these low budget movies that are sort of like horror movies and horror comedies. That are just designed to be like very shocking and gross, and their whole sort of modus operandi is like making these really like shocking, disgusting, gory, explicit movies for on the cheap. They make like trash schlock B movies, and he was part of that stable of filmmakers, and he made this movie called Tromeo and Juliet, which was a like horror, low budget horror interpretation of Romeo and Juliet. And so it was weird at the time that he wrote the Scooby-Doo movies. Did I hear what? This is coronavirus, not a quiet place.
Dad, do you hear that? I thought it was a song.
You thought it was a song?
Yes.
I don't hear a song. I think it's the song in your heart.
It's come out here.
Dad. So at the time it was really weird that he wrote those movies, but he did. He wrote the first two movies.
I'm coming. I'm gonna come back.
And they never ended up making the third one. Okay. I'll see you when you come back. But he revealed during a Q&A what the movie was going to be about. And this is what he said. So he said, the Mystery Inc. gang are hired by a town in Scotland who complain that they're being plagued by monsters. But we discover throughout the film the monsters are actually the victims, and Scooby and Shaggy have to come to terms with their own prejudices and narrow belief systems. So that's what the third Scooby-Doo movie was going to be about. And just to recap, the first Scooby-Doo movie was about which one was which? The first one,
Scooby-Doo 1 is 2004, and it's about them going to the island to fix Mr. Bean's problem, which is, spoiler alert, Scrappy Doo. The second one,
yeah. The first one's where they go to the theme park one. Yeah, that's the first one, and then the second one was
International Man of Mystery.
What?
Just kidding. Scooby-Doo 2.
Also, Scooby-Doo 1 came out in 2002, not 2004. The second one came out in 2004.
Sorry.
That's even later.
Yeah,
that's still later than I thought it was. I thought these movies came out in the late 90s.
Yeah.
This Scooby-Doo was a post 9/11 film.
Yeah, this is the one. The second one is the one with real monsters that like They go to the haunted house and it's actual monsters in it.
Yeah. So off of those movies, there was going to be a third one where basically they're fighting monsters in a town, and then they realize that the monsters are actually the good guys and the townsfolk are the bad guys, and that they're like basically racist against monsters. That was going to be the third Scooby-Doo movie. Kirk?
I was going to say I can't go for that until you explained it, and now I can go for that. That'd be the only Scooby-Doo movie I'd want to see. That sounds awesome. Do it. Kelby, get on that. Tweet out that you want to direct that.
I won't, because as interesting of an idea that sounds like, I'm glad they didn't make that. We're good. The first two Scooby-Doos, blah, so I can't go for that. If I were the Scooby-Doo folks, I would probably never make another Scooby-Doo.
But if you got the opportunity to direct it,
How much they paying?
I mean, above scale? Scale plus 10?
That means my agent's getting a good amount of that. Yeah, why not? I mean, but
Okay.
I wouldn't really want to. I'd show up late every day, but I'd be like, all right, let's take these cameras and record things, I guess.
Jaded. Tyler.
I absolutely can go for that. I love it. Matthew Lillard would be back. I'm here for it. I'm not gonna get too much into it because I'll get emotional, but I can go for it.
Yeah. I definitely can go for that. 150%. So I love the original Scooby-Doo movies so much. I think when I was a kid, when I was younger and they came out, I think I really liked them whenever they came out and I saw them. And then there was kind of like, in the grand scheme of things, a little bit of a backlash against them of like in the years after they came out, they were sort of looked back on as like just really bad and like what the heck was that? Why like those weren't like true Scooby-Doo, like those weren't true to the franchise, and they've kind of become somewhat of a joke. And kind of like they occupied that same space of like Nickelback or like the space that Keanu Reeves occupied for a while before he had like a resurgence of just like kind of universally regarded as bad, and like to the point where it's like they became like a joke or a meme. And I'm so glad that Keanu is out of that box because he's amazing. But I feel like the Scooby-Doo movies were similar to that. But I think that they are underrated classics. I love those movies. I've actually watched them again recently, and they hold up even more than I thought that they did. I sort of looked back fondly on them, but I expected to watch them and them to be, you know, maybe really bad, and I actually just didn't think they were at all. I think that I think they're really good. I think they are true to the franchise. The only thing I don't really like about them, the one thing I don't like about the Scooby-Doo movies is the jokes about Shaggy and Scooby being stoners. That's like the only thing that I don't like about both of those movies. Is I just don't like that. I just think that joke is just so hacky, and it's like, yeah, of course, he's a stoner. He talks to his dog because he's high out of his mind or whatever. Yeah, I just that part bugs me. And I'd rather just believe that Shaggy and Scooby are just these innocent hearts, and they just love food. So that's the one part that bothers me. But other than that,
Nancy Reagan really got to you, didn't she, man?
But other than that, I love the movies, and I love James Gunn. I love his whole career. You know, like I said, I watched Romeo and Juliet whenever I was in high school. I was really into trauma movies when I was younger. Slither is great. I love the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. The first one more so than the second one. And I love these movies. And I think that James Gunn is a great writer and really unique writer. I would have loved to see this, because not only would I have just loved to see a third Scooby-Doo movie, but this premise sounds so interesting to me. And I would have just, like, right now the narrative is like they made 2 Scooby-Doo movies and they were kind of weird. They were kind of like self-referential. They had all these jokes that were kind of like poking fun at the premise of Scooby-Doo, you know, like I said, with the whole like Shaggy and Scooby are stoners thing, and like Fred is this like really vain guy who's obsessed with his own appearance, and that's the narrative right now, is like these kind of like weird parody Scooby-Doo movies came out. But I would love it if the legacy of that franchise was like there was these 2 Scooby-Doo movies and they were just kind of like parodies of Scooby-Doo, and then the third one just got real serious and real, like, it just cast a lens back on society and dealt with some really deep stuff like racism and prejudice. I would just love it if that was the legacy of that franchise. So
Agree.
I definitely can go for that. 100%.
Yeah.
You should tweet that you want to direct it.
I will.
James Gunn needs to direct it, right?
No.
Wow, why you blocking Andrew from getting a gig?
Yeah. Dang.
Damn,
Tyler.
man.
Not a real friend. He gave you a job.
Well,
I
let's
took
not,
it away.
let's not. Let's not.
God damn it, Kirk.
Yeah. So that's another edition of. That's another edition of. Can you go for that?
Go
Oh,
for
oh,
that.
oh. Oh, can you go for that? Oh, oh, oh. Oh, can you go for that? Oh, oh, oh. Oh, can you go for that? Can you go for that? Can you go for that? Tyler's making more money sitting at home doing nothing now than he was.
He did buy a PlayStation.
Birthday credit. Don't bring that up.
Last story before we end the show. And I mean, we talk about celebrity deaths on here, and I don't want to get too dark, because I feel like there's gonna be a lot. There's gonna be like a lot of celebrity deaths. There already have been. It's talking about celebrity deaths has kind of changed now, because before it was like, oh, we're gonna talk about celebrity deaths because a celebrity passed away from old age, and they lived until they were 90 or whatever. But now we're gonna start getting celebrity deaths where it's like people are dying specifically from COVID-19, and it's gonna get real dark. And I don't really want to talk about that too much. But there was a passing that was really kind of relevant and kind of near and dear to my heart, and somebody who I really think deserves to be paid tribute to, and somebody who deserves to have more light shed on their career and sort of what they did for in the realm of music, an unsung hero. So this past week saw the COVID-19 related death of Adam Schlesinger, who was an Emmy-winning musician-songwriter, who, in addition to writing much music for movies and television, was also a founding member and key songwriter for the band Fountains of Wayne. Now, I think a lot of people, if the name Adam Schlesinger is even on your radar at all, you think of him as the guy who was in Fountains of Wayne, or you probably don't even know him. Like, nobody knows who the band members from Fountains of Wayne are. But that's, Fountains of Wayne was a band that was around since the mid '90s, but they had a massive surge in popularity and basically had one single hit in the mid 2000s called Stacy's Mom. And everybody's heard Stacy's Mom. You all know it. It was a huge hit in 2004. It was all over the radio, burned into your mind. And for many people, that's probably where it ends. You probably think like, oh, I just remember that song Stacy's Mom, by that band Fountains of Wayne, and then they just had that one hit and then they went away. Yeah, sure. I mean, maybe you hate Stacy's Mom. Maybe it's annoying to you. Maybe you got tired of it. Maybe you liked it in the beginning, but then got sick of it, or maybe you always hated it. I think Stacy's Mom is a straight banger, but
Good song. Good song.
But I think I definitely did go through a period where I got tired of it back then. But with so many years removed, like it's just a classic. But number one, Fountains of Wayne has so much more great music outside of Stacy's Mom. I mean, that just that album in general. It's called Welcome Interstate Managers, and that's the song that Stacy's Mom came from. But that album is a modern classic. Like, it's so great. And they have so much other music. Like, Fountains of Wayne was a genuinely underappreciated great rock band. I've been playing this album on repeat over and over again all week ever since I read about his passing. But not only that, but Adam Schlesinger has basically contributed to your pop culture music experience greatly. He wrote all the music for That Thing You Do. So,
Yep.
if you ever find yourself thinking in your mind and you get this song stuck in your head, you doing that thing you do, breaking my heart into a million pieces like I always do. He wrote that. He wrote all the music. He wrote all of it.
Still a great song.
That album, that soundtrack for that movie is amazing. Like, I went through a period of being obsessed with that soundtrack before like Apple Music or Spotify existed. So I had to like download like a torrent of songs or something. That album is, it's like, and this is something that rings consistent with his entire career, is like all of his movie songwriting. He tended to get hired a lot to write songs for like fictional bands inside of movies. And so a constant theme in his career is that you'd see a movie and you'd be like, why is the music in this so amazing? Like, this didn't need to be this great. Like, That Thing You Do could have existed as a movie and it could have been good and it could have just been perfectly fine if the music that the band played was just like there. It didn't need to be good. It just needed to exist. But he made it like genuinely great to the point where it's like you want to listen to the songs from this movie.
Yeah, like it was like he had to create a song that had all the feels and trappings of a huge global hit immediately, and it came out perfect.
Yeah.
And it was so good.
He also wrote all the music for this other movie, which is nowhere near as good as That Thing You Do. But there's this movie from the 2000s, maybe like mid 2000s, maybe later 2000s, like up until towards like 2010s. I forget when it came out, but it's called Music and Lyrics, and it's just like a run of the mill romantic comedy with Hugh Grant and Drew Barrymore. And the premise of the movie is that Hugh Grant was this one-hit wonder, or like this. He was in this band, this new wave band in the 80s, and he was like really, really big. Kind of like like Flock of Seagulls, or not Duran Duran, because they sort of endured.
Kaja Goo Goo.
Yeah, Kacha Goo Goo, or like bands like that. Like, they were a band like that, and then the movie is about like present day. He's just, you know, kind of a washed up celebrity. His band lost popularity. It's kind of similar to Wham, because like the band that he's in is kind of like Wham. It's two guys, and then he was the bigger name, and so he like the band broke up, and then he tried to go do a solo career, and his solo career just like didn't take off, which is not what happened with George Michael, but in the movie that's what happened to him. And then he becomes like basically like a songwriter. He basically ends up like becoming like a commercial jingle writer, and he's like really just unhappy with his life. And he ends up meeting Drew Barrymore. I haven't seen the movie in years, so I kind of forget exactly how it goes. But it's just a Hugh Grant romantic comedy. But the movie starts with the music video for the band's like big hit song from the 80s. And it's like it's a fully produced music video with Hugh Grant, like, and this bandmate performing this song, and then that ends, and then it kind of cuts to present day. And the song is amazing. I remember seeing this movie in theaters with my mom, and just thinking like, this movie's kind of just mediocre. But why is the music so great? And it's once again like, this didn't need to be this good. And Adam Schlesinger wrote a pitch perfect hit 80s new wave song. And if I'm not going to play any clips from these, because every time we play clips on here, we get demonetized on YouTube. But go and listen to, just type into YouTube, music and lyrics, Pop Goes My Heart. And watch/listen to the music. Watch/listen to the music video for that. It's so good. And he's done this several times. He's written just amazing music that you've definitely heard, that you definitely at some point or another heard and were like, this is weirdly great. Most recently, the thing that he has been most recently doing was he was like the executive music producer for Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Great show.
So he
really great show.
Good.
So he basically
Great show.
he basically co-wrote all of the music in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend with Rachel Bloom, Tyler's girl, Rachel Bloom. Shout out to Rachel Bloom.
I love Rachel Bloom.
If you listen to this podcast a couple years ago,
I'm sorry for being weird.
if you're listening to this podcast, Rachel Bloom, about 3 years ago, you were in a grocery store in Los Angeles, and Tyler Palo approached you and started hitting on you.
No, that's not how this one went down. I was working delivering ice at the time, and she thought I worked at the grocery store. She approached me to find out where the Parmesan cheese was. And then I started telling her how much my roommate enjoyed her as a way to tell her that.
Oh, yeah. And Craig was like, don't say that. Like, you're the one that's obsessed with her.
But that's a lie, because Craig was obsessed with her. But I was too.
But yeah, Adam Schlesinger pretty much co-wrote all the music on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend with Rachel Bloom and her songwriting partner. He passed away at 52 from complications of coronavirus. He was living in New York. He tested positive for COVID-19, and then he ended up passing away. So real sad, and it's it's especially sad for stuff like this, because it's like, we talk about random celebrities passing away. Kenny Rogers last week, and all these celebrities we talk about, and a lot of times they're like really big, and they had they were recognized for their contributions to society in their lifetime. But Adam Schlesinger is one of those people that he just. And I think he wanted it this way. I don't think he wanted more recognition. I think he totally was fine with being on the sidelines and not having a lot of attention. But he just genuinely made everybody's lives better throughout his entire life with the great music that he brought to us. And he just was never really recognized or known for it. So it's it hits me a little bit harder to see him pass away.
Definitely.
It's different.
Question for you: did we talk about Bill Withers last week? We did, right?
Did we? No,
No. It was in between.
Yeah, Bill. Yeah, I forgot.
Bill Withers is great.
Yeah, I forgot to add that to the list, because I think it just you sent it to me in a time where I just wasn't in that headspace of oh, this should be on the show. But yeah, Bill Withers also passed away.
Yep.
This is very sad. Legend. Somebody I used to listen to a lot in college.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yep. Just the two of us. One of my top favorite songs of all time. Him and Grover Washington. Check it out. It's good.
Ain't no sunshine.
Lovely Day. One of the happiest songs
Lovely Day.
ever recorded.
Grandma's hands. One of the most touching.
Yep.
Is that a pun?
Ah.
Hey.
God damn.
Andrew.
I have just to get your guys' quick reaction. Recently, R&B pop artist icon The Weeknd said that in the song Climax by Usher Raymond, he was stealing his flow, aka his swag. Reaction?
Wait, Usher
said
was
that?
stealing the Weeknd's swag?
Yes.
No.
In the song Climax.
It's hard to say because
that
didn't
sounds
Climax.
nothing like a Weekend song at all.
I mean, you know my general thoughts on these things.
It's bound to happen anyway. So who
I say
cares if
no.
we're fighting about it.
No, he didn't.
No.
Wait, is it like? Okay, so explain to me what he's saying. Did he say he stole a certain?
He stole
song?
his flow. In the song Climax, he stole The Weeknd's flow, which I'm assuming is the falsetto singing.
But it only happens for that like part.
No, Usher, the Weeknd didn't invent falsetto singing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Usher does it 100%
So he
better
can-
anyway.
I love
He can be
I love
quiet.
my boy The Weeknd. I've been since we've been locked down. I've been listening to nothing but the new Weeknd album, After Hours, the new Thundercat album, It Is What It Is, and
Thundercat.
and Fountains of Wayne. Those 3 albums on repeat over and over again. But that's a load of malarkey. Call him malarkey on it.
That's a hoo-ha.
All right, Abel,
Going-
you gotta
going full Joe
you gotta
Biden
sit
over here.
down. You gotta shut it down, Abel. You gotta shut it down.
Shut it down.
Shut her
And on that note, we're gonna shut it down. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
As always, we want to wish you a safe and healthy quarantine. Mike kind of echoed my sentiments earlier, so I don't think I need to go through that whole thing again. But if you can, stay home. If you can't, just try to stay as safe as you can. Wash your hands a lot. Don't reenact scenes from the Molly Shannon vehicle Superstar and start making out with trees outside. Or putting your hands to your face. Everything she did in that movie was exactly what you shouldn't do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Getting up people.
Dating a guy with no chin.
Yeah.
It's all bad.
If you like the show and you haven't already, please subscribe. Give us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. Really helps out shows like this. If you want to follow more continuing nostalgic content or updates about the podcast, you can go to our Facebook page, the official Nostalgia Facebook page. Just search Nostalgia on Facebook. That's our page. We post nostalgia content every day. You can follow us on Instagram at Nostalgia. You can join our Facebook group, the Nostalgia Facebook group. And if you have any questions, thoughts, comments, or concerns that you might want read during the show, you can email us at nostalgicastpod@gmail.com. And feel free to email us with any of the things that you're doing to keep sane during the quarantine. You guys want to plug anything?
No.
Sure. Go listen to, after this, go listen to Food Fight. Hear me argue about food.
You can find
Wherever you get your pods.
Yep, food fight with an exclamation point.
Yes.
I'll plug this. If you guys are looking for things to watch, it's only going to be up for a little bit more time. You can go watch Uncle Ed's Bucket List on UncleEdsFilm.com. It is going to go away pretty soon, so check that out.
Kelby, before we go, did you post a YouTube video at some point? Did I believe? You posted a video somewhere, right?
About what? I have
I don't
posted
know.
a lot
I was-
of
Huh?
videos recently. I've posted a lot of
Oh.
videos recently, yeah.
I thought you recently started posting more like at quarantine videos.
I started a show called Top 3. It's a show about entrepreneurship. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. If you want old school cancelable content, Pregnantville on YouTube.
All right. Thanks for listening.